What if the survival of a nation rested not on armies, weapons, or walls, but on the loyalty of a single dog? This is the untold story of how a brave animal saved the life of President Ibrahim Traoré, and in doing so changed the destiny of Burkina Faso forever. Burkina Faso is a landlocked country in West Africa. Its people are resilient, proud, and deeply tied to their history of resistance. But it is also a nation that has endured hardship, poverty, outside interference, and countless battles for its right to remain independent. In the heart of this struggle emerged a young leader, Ibrahim Traoré. At just 36 years old, he became the youngest president in the history of Burkina Faso. A former soldier known for his quiet voice and sharp mind, he promised something no foreign power wanted to hear: that his country would stand free, self-reliant, and unbroken. But vision has a cost. His policies angered powerful outsiders. His defiance put him on the radar of those who believed Africa was theirs to exploit. And so hidden forces began to move against him, forces armed not just with money and weapons, but with betrayal. Because when the world cannot stop you from the outside, it tries to break you from within. This is not just a political story. This is a story of loyalty, betrayal, courage, and survival. And at the center of it all stands a dog named Diablo. The night was thick with silence. Ouagadougou, the capital, usually pulsed with the noise of markets, motorbikes, and music. But tonight, at 2:30 a.m., the city felt like it was holding its breath. The presidential palace, normally alive with light and guards, lay in darkness. The towering walls stood in shadow. The air was heavy, the kind of heavy that comes before a storm. Inside, President Ibrahim Traoré slept. On the nightstand beside him lay his pistol. But sleep, that night, was not his true protector. Because in the corner of the palace halls, eyes glowed red in the dark. A dog, large, armored with a custom lightweight vest, trained to fight, trained to kill if necessary, stood watch. His name was Diablo. Diablo was no ordinary dog. Years earlier, when Traoré was still a commander, he had found a wounded pup in a destroyed village. Something about the dog was different. Its eyes, burning red like embers. Traoré raised him with his own hands, and when he became president, Diablo became more than a pet. He became a guardian, a shadow with teeth, loyal beyond reason. On this night, loyalty was the only thing standing between life and death. Because unknown to the president, 10 elite guards, his own men, had betrayed him. Paid off by outsiders, they had cut the palace alarms, disabled the cameras, and cleared the patrols. Their mission? To kill Traoré, seize power, and hand Burkina Faso to foreign masters. They moved like ghosts through the palace corridors. Rifles in hand, eyes cold, hearts empty. They thought it would be easy. But they had not counted on Diablo. Diablo's ears twitched. He smelled it before he heard it. The scent of sweat mixed with fear. The metallic tang of weapons. Betrayal had a smell, and Diablo knew it. As the traitorous guards reached the president's door, a shadow moved. The first soldier froze. He felt something behind him. He turned too late. With a growl like thunder, Diablo lunged. His jaws clamped around the man's throat, a sickening crack. The soldier fell, rifle clattering on marble. The others spun around, torches flashing in panic, but the dog was gone. Just darkness. What was that? One whispered. The cursed dog, another hissed. They regrouped, rifles raised, nerves shaking. Then another blur of motion. Diablo leapt from the shadows, tearing into a second man, dragging him down in a storm of fur and blood. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes lit the hall, bullets shattered stone, but Diablo moved faster, ducking, leaping, vanishing. Chaos replaced order. One by one, the men fell, some with throats crushed, others dragged screaming into the dark. Upstairs, Traoré woke to the sound of gunfire. Heart pounding, he grabbed his pistol, crouched low, and peeked from his doorway. Smoke, screams, and there, standing above two lifeless bodies, was Diablo, chest heaving, eyes glowing, his vest scratched by bullets but unbroken. "Good boy," Traoré whispered. But he knew this was only the beginning. A thunderous explosion shook the palace. The second wave had arrived. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were the Shadow Unit, foreign-trained assassins, faceless in black masks, armed with silenced rifles, chemical gas, and night vision. Their leader was known only as the Ghost. "Remember," he whispered to his team, "no witnesses. Kill the president. Kill the dog." They moved like smoke, quiet, coordinated, merciless. Gas canisters rolled down the corridor. A yellow cloud filled the air. Traoré coughed, eyes burning, lungs screaming. Diablo staggered, his powerful body weakening. "No!" Traoré pulled him into a side room, slamming the door shut. On the wall was a locked steel box, an emergency antidote developed just for Diablo. With trembling hands, Traoré injected it into the dog's side. For a moment, silence. Then Diablo's body tensed. His eyes blazed brighter than ever. He rose again, stronger, angrier, unstoppable. The Shadow Unit advanced, but this time they met a monster. From the ceiling beams, Diablo dropped onto them. Teeth tore through armor, claws slashed masks. Shots fired, but the dog was everywhere at once. Meanwhile, Traoré moved like the soldier he once was. Every bullet he fired was precise. 1, 2, 3 assassins fell. Smoke and screams filled the hallways. The Ghost aimed his rifle, but before he could fire, Diablo's glowing eyes locked onto him. The dog charged. The Ghost barely escaped with his life, retreating into the shadows. The palace was a battlefield, but Traoré and Diablo still stood. Out of the smoke stepped a familiar figure, General Dombia, the president's longtime ally, head of palace security. "Mr. President," he called, "you survived. Thank God." But something in his voice was wrong, too calm, too smooth. Traoré raised his pistol. "Where were you, General?" "At the West Gate," Dombia replied without hesitation. "I rushed as soon as I heard the attack." The cameras were cut, the alarms disabled. "You didn't warn me." "Why?" Dombia's eyes flickered. He took one step closer. Diablo growled, low and dangerous. Traoré's voice hardened. "You were never protecting me. You were waiting for me to die." The mask cracked. Dombia smirked. "You were meant to be a puppet, Ibrahim. Young, popular, easy to control, but you became too much of a leader. You gave people hope, and hope makes powerful men afraid." He raised his own gun. But before he could fire, Diablo slammed into him, knocking the weapon away. "Why betray your country?" Traoré shouted. "Because peace doesn't pay," Dombia coughed, blood on his lips. "But foreign money does." And with one last smile, he pulled a grenade pin between his teeth. "No!" Traoré yelled, dragging Diablo back. A deafening blast ripped through the hall. When the dust cleared, Dombia was gone, nothing but ash. The true scale of betrayal was now clear. While the palace burned, the city stirred. At a small radio station, a janitor named Awa saw foreign mercenaries approaching. She wasn't a soldier. She had no gun. But she had courage. Racing to the roof, she fired a flare gun into the night sky. A red signal blazed above Ouagadougou. The people understood. The enemy was here. Rise up. Taxi drivers blocked roads with their cars. Farmers lit tires to barricade highways. Teachers gathered students to guard fuel depots. Ordinary men and women, armed with nothing but sticks, stones, and flags, stood against trained mercenaries. From the palace balcony, Traoré saw flares rising across the city. His people were awake. They would not surrender. The roar of helicopters filled the sky. Foreign mercenaries descended on an airstrip outside the city, their last chance to take Burkina Faso by force. Traoré and Diablo led the counterattack. Bullets rained. Explosions shook the ground. Diablo leapt at soldiers 3 times his size, ripping through armor, seizing weapons, fighting like a spirit of war itself. Beside him, Traoré fired with soldiers' precision, every shot a declaration. Burkina Faso will not bow. The people flooded the airstrip, shouting, waving flags, throwing stones and Molotovs. No foreign helicopter could land. The mercenaries, overwhelmed, retreated. The night ended not with surrender, but with victory. Dawn broke over a scarred but unbroken city. The palace walls were riddled with bullet holes. Streets were littered with burned tires and broken glass. But the people stood tall. And at the president's side stood Diablo, wounded, scarred, but alive. He was no longer just a dog. He was a symbol. Children whispered his name. Artists painted his glowing eyes on city walls. Old men called him the spirit of resistance. And Traoré himself knew the truth. Diablo had not just saved his life. He had saved the soul of a nation. This story is more than one night of blood and fire. It is a lesson in wisdom. Because loyalty can come from the most unexpected places. Betrayal can come from those closest to you. And courage, true courage, is not found in weapons or wealth, but in hearts that refuse to bow. President Ibrahim Traoré survived because he was not alone. He had a loyal protector in Diablo. He had ordinary citizens who refused to let their country die. And he had the wisdom to understand that power is nothing without people. So when you think of history, remember this night. The night a dog saved a president and a nation rose to its feet. And remember the wisdom it carries for us all. Do not fear the night. People are the light.